Hey everyone, welcome to the LIBERcast episode 116. I want to welcome everyone to go see the page on YouTube under the LIBERcast. There's a page on Facebook. You can join me on Facebook. My name is right under there, just there. So if you want to join, the LIBERcast is on Odysee. And from there you can access everything. You can download it, and it's a censorship free platform. So I encourage you to go there and go encourage this awesome site. And on the Facebook, you have the group there if you want to join. And by the way, I want to do this little message before we're starting, that the LIBERcast is an open podcast. So if you have certain knowledge that you want to share, and you care about that, it's turning around what we're doing, what I'm doing here within the LIBERcast, means spirituality, anarchism, abolitionism, morality, natural law, the occult, psychology, tarot, astrology, all these things that we can cover in here. So that's an invitation for everyone who wants to come and discover all this great stuff that I have on the page. So like usual, I'm doing my shameless plug on the One Great Work Network. The One Great Work Network is a aggregate of incredible people, researchers, content creators that are expanding and sharing their knowledge with us. And there's so much stuff there. You know, there's a bunch of them, I think 70 or more people that are implicated in that. So go discover them. There's French, English, Italian. So there's a lot of great stuff, you know, from Mark Passios to Will Kellers and Logan Hart and all these incredible Sidicus Boza. And then you have all these people. You just go there, and you know it's free, so no reason to don't do it. You know, it's absolutely free. So I encourage people to go there, and encourage all the content creators on there. So we have at this time of springtime and all this life that's revigorating, and the sun is coming back, you know, warm for Canadians in far north. You know, we're like starving for sunset and not sunset, but sun rays and warm. So I think it's a good time to look for solutions and let's talk about this. Let's talk about what we can do and what actions that we can do in the real world to try to put the people into motion, you know, and not get confused or mixed up into cognitive dissonance. And we're talking a lot about a lot of dark aspect of what society is and things like that. But I think it's a good time to bring more solutions and what kind of action we can do. So I'm going to introduce Stevan. Thank you for being there, brother. Welcome on the LIBERcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Fred. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. So just quickly go over who you are and talk a little bit about what you went through and why you're at this point. You know, why you're an anarchist, how it started, and where are you at now?
Okay, so you know, I'm Stevan. I'm the model anarchist, and the name the model anarchist is a play on the expression the model citizen. You know, and so I kind of wanted to show the exact opposite. But the way I got to this point, you know, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the way I got to this point was, you know, I was told as a kid, as a child, the propaganda that came through the school was that you're free. You're an American, so you're free. And there were always little things where I was left scratching my head, and the adults in my environment couldn't really answer for me. Like, if we're free, how come we have to have a driver's license? If we're free, how come we're forced to pay taxes and we can't say no? you know, and I spent most of my life learning how to just condition myself to ignore those questions or to ignore those hypocrisies, and just kind of, you know, got sucked into the system and was playing the same game everybody else was playing, that rat race game. And you know, it was pretty miserable. And I kind of came through a spiritual awakening around the same time that I came through a political awakening. And you know, I started to better understand who I believed God to be, and better to understand what my role is in creation. And you know, I basically settled on this idea that it's up to each and every single organism on this planet to define itself. And so I decided, how do I want to define myself? And the more I was coming through this political awakening and understanding that no matter how small of a government that we were to have, it is in the nature of government, because it is a system of force, to always grow itself. So the idea of government is it's a losing idea for the majority of the people. It's a zero-sum game where only one or two are going to win, and the rest are going to lose. You know, but it's not like I started there with anarchy. I went through I was a Republican when I was a statist. You know, I was a Republican, and then I found out about the Libertarian Party. So then I thought I was libertarian, but then I just thought, you know, I couldn't get around the big hypocrisy of libertarians believing that they can keep the government small. Like, it doesn't do it. And no matter how small of a government you have, it's still the initiation of force against peaceful people in order to in order to regulate cooperative behaviors. And so I got to this point where I knew I was an anarchist, and I got to the spiritual point to where I thought, you know, the best way that I can appreciate creation is to live fully 100% by my own conscience. And so that's what kind of led me into this anarchist lifestyle of saying, you know, one thing people got to realize, and I'm sure your audience knows this, anarchy means without rulers, not without rules. And so if I'm going to truly live my life like there's no rulers, then I have to return my driver's license. I have to stop paying income tax. I have to avoid government every place I can avoid them. I don't ask for permits. I don't ask for license. I don't ask for any of that stuff. The only interactions I ever have with government is when they initiate the interaction with me. And so it's a difficult life. It's really, life was surprisingly difficult to navigate without a driver's license, because I can't rent tools to get jobs done. You know, it's hard to identify myself at the bank when I do need to utilize my bank account. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, well, it's not that what I'm doing is difficult. It's only difficult because nobody else is doing it. And so I thought, okay, how can we get a lot of people together to take a small step? Because, you know, I came from where I was as a Republican statist to where I'm at now, you know, a divine anarchist. And it wasn't overnight. It was baby steps all the way along the way. And so as a society, the first baby step that we could really take is this idea that I came up with, where if we all removed our license plates on the same day. Because if we were to remove our license plates on the same day, that would show this level of organization and coordination that would terrify the politicians, because they know that they can only extort us. I mean, if you think about it, here in America, there's only like 500 Congress people, and they're extorting 300 million or 340 million Americans. And they're doing it with only 700,000 full-time police officers. I mean, they need us to extort ourselves. And so one of the easiest ways that we could do that is we could stop paying the DMV. We could take our license plates off. And if we all do that at the same time, the goal is 7 million on day one to start there. And with those 7 million people, we outnumber full-time police officers 10-1. And I think a significant number of the police officers are going to agree with what we're doing and understand what we're doing. And they won't even want to engage with us to begin with, which will take the wind out of the sails of a lot of the gung-ho police officers that kind of want to overstep their bounds. And so once we get this collective confidence that our behaviors is the kind of world that we vote for. You know, you don't vote for the kind of world you want to live in because you're voting team red or team blue. The world you want to vote in, or the world you want to live in, you vote for by the behaviors you engage in. So by going to the ballot box, you're voting for more government. You're voting for more people to extort you and your neighbors, you know. And so the way we break this is a unified, decentralized protest. And the nice thing about the license plate thing is it's a decentralized protest. So, you know, when protesters come into the same area and the police eventually show up, the protesters can outnumber the police 15-1 or more. And but the police are set up with training and riot gear and everything else, and they can function as one hive mind and bring violence against a massive amount of people. And so when a police officer is all geared up in riot gear and they're getting ready to regulate a bunch of peaceful people, it's next to impossible to reach the humanity of the person wearing the police costume. But if we just have our license plates off and we're driving around, you're only interacting with one cop at a time, and they're not in riot gear. And they know that this protest is a peaceful one, so they're not scared, you know. And when you do that, when you can reach the humanity of the person wearing the police costume, then it really de-escalates the situation quite a bit. And I've got 2 videos on my Instagram page of me being pulled over, and that's my strategy. I don't argue the law with the cops, because if I'm going to argue the law with them, then I'm legitimizing the belief system and their codes and statutes, because none of it applies to me. Because I don't believe in any of it. So when you can reach the humanity, then they start seeing, oh, okay, I don't want to bring force and violence against this person. And it's a lot less likely that we end up with anybody being abused by police officers through this kind of protest. So that's just kind of where we're at. And then those who do get tickets, who do get pulled over, you get a ticket, you sign the ticket, and you know, you write a letter to the courthouse and go, hey, look, I only signed this ticket under duress because this man with a gun said he was gonna steal my car if I didn't sign it. And then we just don't go to court. You don't even have to send a letter, just don't go to court. You know, and when we empty out their court system, we empty out their revenue stream, then we're starving the beast. And all of us who want to see a better way to live and organize a better society, it all includes non-payment of the government, of the current governments. And so I don't know why we don't just start that now. Let's just now start not paying the governments and start acting as if we are free. And so that's just kind of my, you know, where my perspective's at. And so that's why I call myself, you know, the model anarchist.
I mean, there's when it comes to government as such, and for the people who are here and the people we hear that it's not new, you know, government is slavery, you know, and it's very easy to get to this conclusion because of all the evil, all the duress, all the theft that is perpetrated by government. And I mean, I have a question for you. I have some question for you about your vision of all this. So,
okay,
based on what you're saying, what would be the next step as for outreaching people and showing them, not only by not putting your plate on the car, what would be a sensible, you know, all around solution for outreaching for anarchy and abolitionism?
well, I think setting the example that it can be done. And the way to accomplish it is through, you know, non-payment. And so the DMV part of the non-payment solution is first, but then the second phase is to get small business together to stop collecting sales tax, collecting income tax, and to stop paying payroll tax. And when small business gets out from underneath the tax burden, they're going to be able to offer better employment at lesser prices than the big box stores. And so because small business owners are so risk adverse, we need to show them that we know how to protect ourselves, and we'll protect them too. And so as far as your question, what comes next, it's an attack with small business on their revenue stream, and we cut them off there too. But as far as how to reach people like this, you know, I do stand-up comedy, And so all of my comedy is anti-government. You know, I don't really put it on my Instagram or anything like that, because I don't want you to know what my jokes are if you ever show up to my show, you know. But you can rest assured that all my comedy is a lot like my Instagram page, you know, all anti-government, all, you know, this is stupid. So, you know, I do that, and then I run, you know, Instagram, and I try to stay active on YouTube and Rumble and everything else, all pretty much with the same name, at the Model Anarchist. And then coming out and accepting invitations, like when you invited me to come on your show here, you know, especially with somebody so like-minded, it's nice, because most of the shows I end up on, they're not abolitionists, they're mini anarchists. You know, they go, oh well, we still need that military, we still need this, we still need that, and it's like, well, we don't need it by force, we need it through voluntary cooperation. That, you know, through voluntary cooperation, we will produce everything faster, better, and cheaper than what's produced when it's produced by force. You know, people believe that government codes keep us safe, like the government building code keeps us safe. And it's like, no. The government building code slows down innovation so that they can retain control. Because now no innovation can come because it's government building codes. And I should have the right to decide if I want to enter a building that was built outside a government code or not. You know, we got to take the personal responsibility. We get to choose our own risk in life. And when somebody else starts dictating what risk you're allowed to accept, then you're no longer free. You don't have this self-ownership that anarchy is. You know, anarchy without rulers by default means self-ownership, and everything owns itself, right? The apple tree owns itself, the dog owns itself, you own yourself, I own myself. And that should be respected.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what anarchy is, can you give a brief description of what abolitionism and anarchy is?
So I believe that anarchy is a force of nature. It is, again, it's self-ownership. And since everything owns itself, anarchy is what we have. And right now, what we're doing is we're using our self-ownership to go ahead and be coerced into surrendering the fruits of our labor, essentially. And so if government is this idea that they have the right to steal the fruits of your labor, then that's the equivalent of being a slave. I mean, that's the definition of slave. If you're a free man, you have 100% discretionary authority over the proceeds of your labor. If you're a slave, you don't. And so if you're a citizen, you don't have 100% discretionary authority over the proceeds of your labor. And so what we are is we're abolitionists of slavery. The war wasn't over. Slavery never ended. It increased. The scope of slavery increased, you know, tenfold, if not more. And so, you know, we're for whatever reason, some of the ones that can see what's really going on, and we're saying, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. I would, you know, I've said it a few times on my channel. I would rather die at their feet than or die at their hands than to live at their feet, because it's, you know, the slave life isn't a life for me. You know, when you look at animals that are raised in captivity and you look at animals that are raised in the wild, they could be the exact same type of animal, but they have very distinct different personality and exhibit different characteristic types. And it seems to be the ones raised in captivity have a lesser experience than the ones that are raised in the wild, even though the wild, you know, it's more dangerous, but that comes with much more reward.
And anarchy is a philosophy and ideology that freedom should be our first goal as individuals and in the masses, in the community, you know, and civilization. And in order to do that, we have to know what we're against. And government are multifaceted, octopus-like, insidious, and very well, you know, this is a perfected machine. And I agree with you on slavery, and it was never done. We were never done with slavery. It has been perfected. So slavery, we don't have the chain and balls slavery, get whipped and working on the fields, like the Egyptian or other people that were enslaved in the time. And I mean, anarchy as such, and means it's a prefix for without, and anarchy is archon, means rulers, masters.
Mhm.
So it means without rulers. And I enjoyed what you said about it, that it doesn't mean that there's no rules. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that there's no foundation for a world without tyranny and slavery. And I think this is the one thing that makes up everybody is confused about the meaning of the word, and it's very important to address it, because
Yeah.
most people are hearing the word anarchy and they think about chaos, war, and debauchery and all these things, and it cannot be it's so wrong. The spirit and the intention behind this kind of ideology is about freedom. But in order to achieve freedom, we have to be aware. We have to be smarter than them. And sometimes we have to play in their game. We have to play on
Mhm.
the checkered floor, if I can take this expression. Um, so there's a big step to do when it comes to mind control and emotional mind control and cultural indoctrination and all these things that are heavy on this community. And most of them are still stuck into this religiosity, and still stuck into Christianity or money or any other cult
Yeah.
religions, and it keeps us back from moving forward. I think the only religion that would exist for me would be love and humanity. So it would be I mean, it's an utopia. We can talk about this, and there's many people who have tried to bring solutions, sociocratic voluntarists, and all these people who are working to try to build something. And you have Ubuntu contributionism that created a blueprint for a society with the money no money society. They want to do a transition. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, so it's a Canadian guy called Michael Tellinger, and he started Ubuntu contributionism. And then what it means that it started with some groups of people gathered together, and I partook into these group, and then we're talking about what we can do for each other, service exchanges, and things like that. So it starts there, and you're building something, and these connections, they're getting bigger. But at the time that we were doing it, people were not ready for that. There
Right.
was a lot of questions, doubts. People would ask, if I do more, can I have more? How do we, balance all these things, because we are still stuck into this mindset of money. It's really
Yeah.
hard to deprogram ourselves from that, and we have struggle. Some people have made decisions, they have a responsibility, so we have to balance it with all this stuff. I think small steps and prudence would be the word when it comes to ideologies and how you approach things, and because we have to be realist about that. This world that we're living in right now is complacent, is ignorant. Most people are not everybody, but most people are very ignorant, very complacent. They don't care about the freedom of other people. They only care about themselves.
Right.
So this is where we're at. We have solutions, we have blueprints, and we have down on earth solutions, but people don't have the baggage, the education to even understand the first step. So at your opinion, I would like to ask you that, what would be the first thing in the individual, what should be the first thing that these people needs to be educated about?
So when I'm talking to people, I try to approach most of the conversations not as much like trying to say why what they believe is incorrect, why you shouldn't be allowed to bring violence against me. What I look for is, how can we find agreement and common ground? And so the one question that always gets common ground, that always gets agreement, is do you want to be free from being forced into contract with somebody else? Right? Because that's what government is. Government is forcing you to contract with them. And none of us want to be forced into it. The right to free association is just inherently human. Nobody wants to be on the receiving end of a violation of the right to free association. We all want to be able to walk away, whether it's from an annoying conversation we don't want to have, or if it's literally from somebody holding a gun to your head. The right of free association should be at its core respected, because we have all these rules written down, but they're all just made up, because without those rules written down, we already have ingrained within each and every one of us the natural law of human interaction, right? And at its core, it says that all interactions between humans should be consensual. If we just go, I'm only going to engage with interactions that are based on consent. If that's and everybody agrees to that. The one thing we all want as humans, my example here that we all have the natural law of human interaction is, dogs know how to be dogs and birds know how to be birds, and they don't have any rules written down at all. But they know it because it's ingrained within the nature of being a dog or being a bird. And so ingrained within the nature of being a human is, we understand, a thief doesn't want to be stolen from, a rapist doesn't want to be raped, and a murderer doesn't want to be murdered. So even when you engage in what's wrong, you still know it's wrong. And we all know that it's wrong. And so I just try to encourage people, let's look at every interaction that you're in. And is it based on consent? And one I love to point to, because it's so easy, is the DMV. I mean, they have the audacity to call you a customer, but you're not a customer, because there's an entire team of people with guns that will threaten you with locking you in a cage if you don't pay the DMV. So let's call it what it is. What is that? Well, that's an interaction that I'm coerced into agreeing with. And so even if you fall for the coercion, or if you say, you know what, for whatever reason, I'm not willing to risk anything here in this arena. Let's say there's a lot of people that just go, you know what, I can't take the risk of taking my license plates off on November 5th. Okay, well, that's fine. But if you end up on a jury, then you got to protect the people that said, you know what, I am going to make a stand here. Anytime you're on a jury and the defendant is basically engaged in consensual behavior and there's no victim to their behaviors, then the jury should be saying not guilty, because I want to be able to do that. And so I'm going to protect this person's right to do that. And so these are the little things I try to get into people's minds. Like, do we want to restore common law, live by the natural laws of human interaction? Well, in order to do that, in order to get there, I believe jury nullification is the path. And then in order to keep it, jury nullification is still the key to common law. Because if we don't have a jury assembled to decide guilt or innocence, and that's when guilt, all cases in common law have a victim. So there's no hey, you were going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, so now you owe us money. There's none of that shit. And even if there was something like that and you went into a common law court, then the jury has the responsibility to make the moral decision and go not guilty, you know? And so a lot of people, especially in our community here, Fred, when I talk about jury duty, they hear government, play with the government, participate with the government. But it really goes beyond that, because in order to keep government at bay, we have to understand the importance of serving our community as jurors, because that really is at the heart of how we maintain our freedom. Is that, you know what, I do want a jury of my peers. You know who my peers are? They're my neighbors. They're the people who have known me for 30 years. They're the people who have judged my character day in and day out, you know?
Yeah.
And I expect those people, and I expect those people that if even my best friend, even my absolute best friend, if he for some reason was on a jury for me and I was absolutely guilty of injuring somebody, then I want him to find guilty. Not because you like me, but having that history of character really helps with, okay, you know, make the decision as to whether or not somebody's actually guilty. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So,
And yeah, go on, man. Go on.
oh, so I'm just saying, you know, jury nullification is at the center of it all. If we get, you know, we're not even facing like 20 years in jail or prison or anything for taking our license plates off, but you know, you get a ticket, you end up in court, you end up in front of a jury. We make up the juries. You know, the judges and the attorneys are well versed in the law. So if the law was what the final decision was, if the legality was the final decision, then the judge and the attorneys would suffice. We wouldn't have a jury. But a jury is just 12 random people who supposedly have no education in the law, or mostly have no education in the law, but they're responsible for making the final decision, because morality is superior to legality. And we have to remember that. And we have to go, you know, I think one of the hardest things about being a police officer is that multiple times a day, probably 100 times a day, you're faced with making the moral decision or making the legal decision. And every time you choose legal instead of moral, you devalue yourself, because you're not living up to what it means to be a human. Humans, we have an objective morality, and that is, do not steal, do not violate another person's property or body. It's simple, it's easy, it's not complicated, you know. And I know an overwhelming vast majority of people want peaceful conflict resolution with a justice system that is centered on rehabilitation and remedy when things go wrong. You know, because I'm not out here preaching that we're going to have a utopia, that there's never going to be problems. But what I am saying is that if we can stop the centralization of power, when two people do want to go to war, the casualties will only be in the hundreds as opposed to the casualties being in the millions. Right? I mean, just the amount of death that is caused by government, I mean, governments kill more of their own people than they do of other governments' people.
Yep.
It's asinine that we keep going along with it. You know, it's once you're out of the matrix, you can't go back in. You know, I really appreciate the character Cypher from the movie The Matrix, because he wanted to go back in. And sometimes it's like, man, I wish I could just shut my brain off again and just live in that delusion of what I thought was important. You know, and back to what you were saying, it was about chasing money. Money made the world go round, you know, but it doesn't anymore. You know, and what makes my world go round is building community. And that's more valuable than money in the bank.
Yeah, the Cypher is actually like, it's like he knows that the stake doesn't exist, but it's still a justification for being a slave and being back into the matrix. It's a incredible movie for the people. I invite people, you know, if you want to see an exploration of the Matrix movies, Mark Passios is actually having I think he made all of them, and he's talking about all the symbolism, all the uh, uh, ideologies behind it, and all the little trinkets and symbolism in the background, and the words and the stories and the characters, and incredible storytelling, this movie. And you talk about November 5th. By the way, I suggest everyone who have not seen the movie V for Vendetta
Yeah.
to go see this movie. November the 5th is it's like connected to this movie, by the way.
Remember the 5th of November.
Exactly. I mean, I've listened to this movie like dozens of times. I fucking love it. I love this
Yeah.
movie. I like the double facets of the V character, and his story, and the story of Evie, and all the government, like Fourth Reich, Fourth Reich kind of government, and I'm just telling you that, people, but we're fucking there. 1984. It's not far from here, from where we're at now. I mean, we're already there.
Yeah. Things go down the memory hole all the. I'm a firm believer that the Mandela effect is basically things going down the memory hole.
Yeah, and there's many movies just like that. THX 1139 and 1984, and then you have Brave New World, and
Yeah.
you have The Giver, and you have many movies. Equilibrium with Christian Bale, that an awesome movie, awesome action movie, and the story behind it is fucking incredible.
Well, if you look at it, you brought up Brave New World. If you look at Soma, that's basically anti-depressants that the pharmaceutical company is pushing, is the
Yep.
Soma that they're talking about, and all the pushing and the sexual perversion on the children is exactly what that book was talking about too. This completely devaluing of sex, and
Yep.
yeah,
The
I mean,
disconnection between men and women.
yeah, and they tell us.
1984.
They give us all this truth in the media. You know what I mean? The movies and the books and the literature is full of, this is how you defeat the tyrants. The November 5th, it's great. Remember the 5th of November, that movie. The way I kind of visualize it too is I am Spartacus, where one person stands up and then more stand up and more stand up, and once we reach a critical mass of people standing up, and I do believe there are enough people just like you and I who believe like we do, that there are enough of us to where if we moved in unison, boom, the dominoes would start falling. Because we don't need 50%. We need 3, 4, 5%. And I think we probably have a little bit more than 7 or 8% of the population that understands the concepts that we're preaching here. They may not be ready to stand up or be as vocal and out loud as we are. But that's what trailblazers are supposed to do, right? We're supposed to show, hey, this is the way. This is how we do it. Come follow us, because it's better than what you're doing over there. Because what you're doing over there fucking sucks.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, there's no many ways to describe all this travesty of society. And I had the chance to wake up very earlier in my life, and I became an anarchist, an ideological anarchist at my younger age. And this is why I never voted. This is why I never partook into the government. And it's I mean, I don't know why people don't get this. Um, After all that you talked about, and the example that we gave, I I I cannot understand why people don't see it. And the thing with that is, I don't think people, like you mentioned earlier, I don't think people don't know it. I think people know this, but they just decide to ignore it for validation, or comfort, or security, and all these factors that keep on piling on each other's. And there's some things I wanted the episode is called Anarchy and Solutions, so I wanted to bring something else. I know you're already into that, but uh, uh, food autonomy, I think
Yeah.
it's a big one. um you want to make you want to give your opinion about that, where we can where let's say, no, you're talking to someone completely new to that. Just give us some cue and tricks, and maybe some useful information about that.
Okay, yeah, I'm a firm believer that without food independence, there is no independence. If you can't feed yourself, you're beholden to somebody else. Um, so when one of my ideas for AI is I would love to see like an AI agriculture system so that all the components are 3D printable. So if you got one guy in your neighborhood with a 3D printer, and then you could print like a vast majority of the components needed for an AI backyard agricultural system that could link up all the backyard gardens, you could produce more than enough food for your neighborhood if it was, with minimal effort once the AI's been built or whatever. Uh, because without the food independence, there is no independence. When people ask me like, "What's the first step I can take toward anarchy?" It's you better plant one thing in this next coming planting season, and depending on if it's winter or spring or whatever, just grow one thing to feed yourself with. And if you focus on it and you keep focusing on it, then you'll get more and more and more and more ways to secure your food supply. Because once your food supply is secured, um, it's harder for somebody to coerce you into agreement.
Yeah,
And I'm a
and
big lover of permaculture and
yeah,
perennials. Things that keep coming back. Fruit trees, asparagus, artichoke, all that kind of good stuff. Strawberries, blackberries, raspberries. Yeah.
yeah. I have the chance of having a beautiful wife, um, and we're working on that. We don't have much, green space, but we built, and we had the chance to have people who help us build some cases and do permaculture, and we decided to start doing it. And we have a vegetable tower. It's a tower that you put inside, and there's some lights and water into
Mm,
it, and you're just adding the stuff that helps
I've seen
them to
those.
grow. Yeah, they're awesome, but it's limited. It's not perfect, but it
Sure.
works. So I mean, there's, and I think this freedom of not being in scarcity mindset, I think it's a big one, and we talked
Mhm.
about it a little bit um in another life. And if this scarcity mindset is really limiting us from moving forward, and actually there's plenty of solution that can be made in the local area, if all people, you know sacrifice a little bit of their green grass, and they're like uh, cultivating, and put, let's say, half of the field, half of their places, and we're beating food, it's gonna be that abundance that's gonna born from it. And this abundance can spread very easily. So if you
Mhm.
have every city, village, or little place that people are working together, and elderly people, children, adults, families that can go there and work together and grow food, or have eggs and take care of chickens or meat or some things like that. It's not impossible. You don't just have to take your head out of your ass and do something. So I'm very blessed to stay in place where we have a lot of farmers around, so it's very easy to find quality food and things like that around. But it's not everyone. Not everyone is around farmers, and fields. So I mean, there's countless documentaries on growing food, permaculture, and in these towers, the vegetable towers. Some people are buying like 20 of them, and they're growing food right in there.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. Even in the winter, we have harsh winter here, and it's very cold, but you dig a few feet, and then you build over it, and you find a way to keep the warming keep warming it up, and it's very it's not costly. And everyone is enjoying the food that comes from it. So there's a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of selfishness behind it. Why does it didn't happen before? No, that's a question that we can ask ourselves. Why we're consenting to poverty,
Right.
why we're consenting to violence, and where it comes from.
Well, in poverty comes from a scarcity mindset, right? And government can't exist without war, and
Yep.
and armies are only raised from the children of the poor. So the way I like to explain scarcity and abundance to people, and most people can understand this just because it's so simple. Each and every person has the ability to produce more than enough for themselves and one other person. And so if we all have the ability to provide for two people, then that would be a world of abundance. There would be more than enough to go around for everybody, because we have enough water, we have enough space, we have enough textiles, we have enough food, we have enough homes. The homeless crisis isn't an issue of there not being enough homes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's to a degree, I think the homeless understand deep down in their souls, because a lot of homeless people don't want to come back to society, and I think they haven't been able to articulate to themselves why they feel that way. But deep down in their souls, they know it's a bullshit system. No matter
Yeah.
what you build in that system, somebody with a gun is going to come and kick your door in, and they're going to take it. And so, a lot of these guys, I think, if we want to solve the homeless problem, then what we need to do is we need to create a society that's worth a shit, and that will bring people back. And the fact that we do live in abundance, we live in a world of abundance. There's more than enough for everybody. Um, and because of that, we can organize ourselves into games that become co-op games instead of zero-sum games. Scarcity is zero sum. There's one piece of bread and there's two of us. What's going to happen? But the co-op games are, hey, look at all this food that we've got. What else can we build together? Now that we've got this under our belts, now that we know that we can eat, what can we build together next? And that we both win from, that we both benefit from. And so the fact that we all have the ability to give a little bit more than we get, that's abundance. And this is how we build it the more of us who build it within our own lives, the better off we are, the faster we will spread. Because it's like the social media is great, because with social media, we're able to share ideas, like on this podcast, like on my Instagram page. We're able to share these ideas, and we're able to communicate, and we're able to share not just ideas of philosophy like we're talking about today, but ideas as to how do you grow food during cold winters. And YouTube's our best friend for stuff like that. The Google algorithm is terrible, but decentralized education, everything in society is better when it's decentralized. In a decentralized education, every adult I know claims to have a PhD or a degree from the University of YouTube. And I'm one of them. This van that I'm in, this is a self-converted camper van, and it's all from watching people on YouTube who it was a win-win for them. What they needed from me was my attention. What I needed from them was their ability, or their skill set, their knowledge. And we were able to meet. And then there was a third party, YouTube, who's able to make the monetary side work. But this created, or it's a microcosm or small model of abundance. It's good because now we both come into this arrangement and we're both better off for it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, and I keep on repeating this, but the root of the problem is ignorance, and ignorance comes from the mind and fear. So we have to fight against this trend of fear porn and war porn and all these things that keeps us from moving forward. And one of the things that I think that affect the people is fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And fear of the unknown is fear of truth and fear of self-responsibility, and autophobia would be the means that people are afraid of themselves, afraid of their nature, afraid of their potential, because it means that they have to sacrifice or compromise on things. Oh, maybe I cannot like buy a bigger house because I want to invest in something else, and they're afraid to take risks. They're afraid of learning new things, and I think that's a big chunk of what we have to stand against and fight or against, and this is in the mind. You know, physical stuff is one part, but the biggest aspect is to fight these demons that we have inside of us, and this lack of communication, you know, quality communication and interpersonal relationships and community spirit. It's all broken. It's all broken, and without unity, without community, and people get together, it's not gonna be possible
Right.
without this unity between us. And I try as much as I can to push this information because I think it's a critical aspect that we have to look upon, and we have to build back these networks between people. Before, people were working together when they were farmers, before the modern revolution, the evolution, and all these things. People were really tied together, and they were partying together, they were working together, and they were eating together. And nobody, it's not an obligation to do that. No, you don't have
Right.
to. Yeah, Chris Nelson, no unity without base level morality. Yep. There's no unity because morality is lacking,
Well,
because people don't care.
yeah. So one of my favorite things in the English language is the word live is spelled Live, and the word evil is spelled the same letters, but it's backwards, Evil.
Yeah.
Right. And so what does it mean to live? To live is to be productive, create abundance, and perpetuate life. And so the counter side of that, to be evil, is to consume more than you produce, create scarcity and poverty, and engage in behaviors that perpetuate death. And so, the system that we live in, I'm not so sure that people are ignorant. I mean, I guess ignorance is the right word. I just don't like to think that people are dumb, because there's trillions of dollars and probably millions of man hours that are invested annually in over and over and over again in maintaining the illusion of scarcity. They
Yes.
have to work really, really hard. And so yeah, we do need to connect with our communities again. I spend a lot of my time on the internet, but when I'm not on the internet, I'm spending my time building communities. I'm working with farmers, I'm a beekeeper, I'm out there, helping my neighbors with, because I'm able-bodied, and a lot of my neighbors are a little bit older, and I'm helping install chandeliers and ceiling fans and fixing leaky hot water heaters and stuff like that. And the more that we do that, then that will continue to impact others, as we explain to them. I explained to one of my
Yeah.
neighbors the other day when I was digging in his backyard. I go, if the government got even any part of my labor today, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm only digging this hole because it's a benefit to you, and you're offering a benefit to me, and we're both coming out ahead. And so these are the kind of communities that we all have to take upon ourselves to engage in, no matter where in the system that we have to play. Because one of the freedoms I had to be able to be as extreme as I am in my non-compliance is I didn't have a whole lot to lose.
Hmm.
So without a whole lot to lose, it's easy for me to really go out there and just kind of live on these fringes of the extremes. But so I know everybody's got a different place that they have to stand with the state, and they stand and they try and navigate this belief system. But the one way I also encourage people to look at it is the way, when I am forced to engage with the state, is I always engage with the state as a church. I am a church, and the state has rules that they're not allowed to make rules about the church. And so that gives me a lot of freedoms to navigate the system without getting too sucked into giving up contracts and stuff like that with the state.
Yeah, I mean, this what we are standing on is a new world that we want to create.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we have already the foundation and it's built. It's we're starting from bottom, and it's very important to stay objective in this kind of situation. And I mean, we have to change the words.
We
We have
need to be
to
honest with our
adapt.
word.
Yeah, we have to adapt to this low consciousness, this Satanist mindset, that it's really really strong, really embedded into society. I was talking with someone today, and this kid, he was maybe 18, 19, and he was totally into it. He was justifying World War II. He was justifying the use of violence, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And when you have people that are that broken, what can we really do? Even if we're trying to talk to them, and this is the one aspect that I because I try to stay as realist, and to stay as rooted as I can be in the real world. So the effort that we need to put, that we're and I mentioned it, I think we're wasting precious energy on trying to convince and try to reason with a lot of them. I mean, we're gonna continue to do it for sure. It's not a reason to stop. But I think education of the young, and
Yeah.
and show them that there's solutions, there's alternative to this world. I was talking to this girl. She was maybe 18 years old, and she didn't even know where meat comes from.
Mm-hmm. And it
So
took, yeah.
I mean, we have a big problem here. You have these kids that are fucking, like, they're not ignorant. They're like very dumb, and they're willingly dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna present them proof, you're gonna present them knowledge, and they're still gonna have this glossy, uh, fluorided stare in their eyes. And it's not because the people didn't take care of them. It's because their parents were broken, and society is broken, and the culture, oh my god, the culture is beyond broken.
Oh yeah, this is why we have so many symptoms of sickness, and sickness
Yeah,
being things that go against life. You
the
know.
the rise of mental illness, and confusion, you know
So one thing Jordan Peterson pointed out that I really liked was, it was one time he was doing one of his lectures about the Old Testament of the Bible, and he pointed out the fact that when the Jews escaped slavery in Egypt and they wandered in the desert for 40 years, the reason why they had to wander for 40 years is because the slave mentality had to die off. The slave mentality doesn't get the promised land. The only people who get the promised land are the young who weren't raised as slaves, or the free men, rather, because the first generation of the Jews that were born in the desert as they were wandering for 40 years was 40 years old by the time they made it to the promised land. They were raised as free people. They weren't raised as slaves. And so once it's not that we need people to die off, but we need a mentality to die off. We need there to be a shift in global consciousness and awareness of what we're doing, and we need to be honest. It's being impeccable with our words. Like you said, we got to use the right words to do this.
yeah,
Now, from a spiritual standpoint, the only thing I'm really concerned about, ultimately, I don't really care if we're successful in saving the world or not, for lack of a better expression. Um, all I'm concerned about is my relationship with the Creator, with
yeah,
with with what I believe the divine to be. And so and so, you know, I want this anarchist world. And so the way I vote for that, the way I show I want that, is the way that I engage with the world around me. And I do that in the level that I'm have the capacity to do so. And everybody has the capacity to increase
Sure.
whatever it is that they're doing with the world to vote for that better world, and build community and help people know where a cow comes from, and help, you know, people get off fluoride. You know, it's so simple. It's like the information's out there as to what fluoride is. So why can't people make the, well, it's because they're on fluoride is why they can't make the connection that fluoride's bad. It calcifies their pineal gland. They're so out of touch with the true nature of what they are, you know. And it is sad and it's frustrating. But again, it's what helps me through the frustration and through the sadness of it all is just going, you know what, I got to focus on my relationship with the creator. You know, when I meet my creator, I want to be able to honestly say, hey, I didn't comply with evil. I recognize that you gave me life, and life behaves a certain way. And if I wanted to be evil, I engage opposite of that. But I chose life. I chose to engage, to be productive, to produce more than I consume, to engage in, create a world of abundance, to engage in behaviors that perpetuate life, you know, to engage in behaviors that give cause for celebration. You know, we don't want to engage in behaviors that cause death. Anytime you do that, you know, there's a sickness there, right? Like the out of control abortion rate. That, I mean, that's a symptom of a sick society, because it's not natural for life to kill its young like that. And I believe the way to solve abortion, if for those people who have an issue with abortion, if you really want to solve that problem, then you need to create a world that's worth a shit. You need to put your efforts into creating a world where pregnant women want to celebrate life, and that it's amazing to have a baby. And so it's not about who you can vote for to go into government to make it illegal or not legal. It's, you need to change the way you engage with the world around you to create a world where women don't want to have.
Oops. Disconnected. Yeah, so oh, here we go.
Well,
We had a disconnect there. No
Oh,
problem.
that's okay. My point was that you know, we just got to understand that the only thing we're in control of is our control only extends to the tips of our fingers. Beyond that, you know, we're not really in control of anything, and I accept that. And so that's why I just kind of focus on my relationship with the creator. And so I can't separate it out. Inseparable from my relationship with the creator is how I engage with other people in the world around me.
Yep.
And the more you focus on gratitude, just the more abundance you produce, and the more abundance that comes into your life. It's so counterintuitive to think that if I give more than I consume or receive, that you'll actually end up with a lot more than if you just took all the time. If you took more than you gave, you would end up with a lot less than if you gave more than you received. And it when people can kind of wrap their heads around that, we can certainly change the world very rapidly.
And I want to end that on some words. So if you have something, you can promote your pages where people can get you. I know there's the Model Anarchist. I know it's the name, but can you inform the people on what platform you're in?
Yeah, so my biggest following is on Instagram at the Model Anarchist, but I also have a Twitter account at the Model Anarchist. I've got a YouTube at the Model Anarchist, and I've got a Rumble at the Model Anarchist. And actually, I even have a TikTok at the Model Anarchist. But Instagram's where I'm most active. And then from there, I also have a Telegram channel going. It's not overly active right now, but I think it's a good one to jump on. And the link to that's on my Instagram profile.
Awesome. So please, people, and I want to end on that because I think it's well fitted for the end. Get involved in the work.
Yeah.
Do something about it. You know it's wrong. You have this fire inside of you. Don't wait. Do something. It can be little things. may be little things for you, but for this world, for someone else, maybe it's gonna be a great step. Maybe it's gonna be a great thing. So you're not that's not an obligation to do a podcast or do like pages on the internet. You can be active in the local area and try to inspire people by your actions. So and for that you need to get knowledge into yourself. You have to acquire this knowledge and then understand it. If you don't know the morality, if you don't know about your rights, your natural rights, then this is where you have to start. You have to start to know oneself and get better, and afterward you can inspire people and get into action. So don't wait, do something now, and help the people in community. Just help raising money or food or clothing, or help building something, help people to move, or little actions just like that. Or you can build podcasts or groups or things like that, so you can get people to educate you at the same time. This is what I'm doing. I'm talking with people and I'm inviting them, and I'm learning. This is how we doing. It's getting together. We have this incredible gift of technology that we have now. Just use it. All the information that Stevan is talked about is all free on the internet. You can access it just like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is where we have to start inside. Work your being better, respect yourself, show you care, show yourself love, and then you're gonna be able to give it to other people. Do you care about yourself? It's the measure that you're gonna care about the people around you.
Yeah.
And some people, they're gonna I'm blessed to have a great job into the community and helping people, but get involved, do the work, do the fucking work. We're like an handful of person compared to the masses. We're an handful of people who are doing it freely. We're not asking for any money. So contact me. My name is Fred Gingras, and then you have Stevan on the Model Anarchist. Contact us if you want more information, or if you're interested in that, you get called from this information. Contact us. It's free, and we're gonna help you. So thank you for people. Thank you, Stevan, for sharing your time. I appreciate it, man. Much gratitude to what you're doing and the word that you're sharing, because I think that these are important steps into healing divides into the individual, into the collective, in the community. And I appreciate your work, and I invite you to share your stuff on the page, on the Facebook page. I'm gonna invite you on the group,
Oh,
and
great.
I invite you to share your videos there.
Will do.
The door is open, and I'm gonna repeat it. If you're interested, you want to share your knowledge, the podcast is open. The LIBERcast is open, and I'm working in French and English for the people who understand they can talk French. The French people, inviting you for sharing your knowledge and sharing the knowledge to all the people. And if you care, you know, if you care. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being there, following us, and the people who were listening to it afterward. Thank you, people. You're the pillars of the LIBERcast. Much gratitude to you all. So good evening and see you soon. Take care. Here we go.